I am John Marchand, and I'm running for the office of Livermore Mayor. I'm currently the mayor and running for re-election.
Okay. What is your favorite thing about Livermore?
Wow, there are so many things. Livermore is an amazing community. One of the things that I find the most remarkable is that the founder of our city, William Mendenhall, named it after Robert Livermore. And he named it for Livermore because of Livermore's kindness and generosity. And to this day, that continues to be in our DNA as a community. We continue to be a remarkable, giving, and generous community. And I think that's what I like the most about it, is the remarkable people here. We also have the wine region and the fact that you can be at a wilderness trailhead from the downtown in 20 minutes. So we're a city of contrasts and superlatives, and that's what I love about it.
Got it. Why are you running for mayor again?
Well, we've been able to get a lot of great things done in this city, and there are several things that still need to be done. There's the asset management plan, completing the downtown as we heard from the community what they want in the downtown. Livermore Plaza, the asset management plan so that the assets in the city will continue to serve this community for generations to come. And those are things that are going to take more time, and I'm looking forward to completing those. Also, Livermore Plaza. That's something that's very near and dear to my heart as a chemist.
Okay, got it. The first main issue we're going to talk about is one that's been a big issue for quite a while.
It's not the downtown, is it?
Yes, it is. It is the downtown plan. So let's begin with Stockman's Park. This park is going to be a central park for Livermore's downtown. Do you support the council's decision for Stockman's Park?
Well, absolutely, because Stockman's Park was something that was promised to the Stockman's Association 56 years ago. And this is going to be something that was originally planned on Pacific Avenue. And now with Vice Mayor Warner actually conceived the idea to do this land swap between the Stockman who didn't want housing on the Pacific parcel. Instead, they wanted a park, and the city agreed to that in 1962. And here we are all these years later, and the idea came to swap that land in the downtown so that we now have a central park in the downtown, Stockman's Park, to celebrate the contributions of the Stockman and of the veterans of Pleasanton, Livermore, and Murray Township. And that's going to be a remarkable open space in the downtown where families can gather and children can play. So absolutely, I support that 100%.
Got it. Let's move on to the plan for a hotel. A downtown hotel has been planned for nearly 20 years now. And
more than that.
Yeah, and it looks like it might finally come to fruition. Do you support the council's decision to place the hotel next to the Bankhead Theater?
Well, absolutely, because when they were first talking about bringing a hotel in, there was a developer, Dick Sonnenblick, who was going to bring one in, and it was next to the Bankhead. Jack Baritow, we were negotiating with him to bring one in. Then the recession hit, but that was going to be next to the Bankhead. There's always been this synergy between the hotel and the Bankhead Theater, and that's always been the concept from as long as I've been studying. And I was on the General Plan Review Committee back in 2004, and the intent was always to have the hotel next to the Bankhead Theater, because then you have that synergy between the two. You'd have conferences at the hotel, and you have the large sessions at the Bankhead Theater. So it just makes sense.
What are some of the drawbacks of not having the hotel?
This is something that one of the things, there is a city in the Central Valley, well, Lodi. So Lodi is an international wine destination. Livermore is not. Now, Livermore is the first winery in America to have the international gold medal from the exposition in France, 1889. And the fact that we are not a destination, but other cities are, is solely because we do not have the facilities, and that is an upscale hotel in the downtown. This is something that our wine groups have been clamoring for years. The laboratory has wanted it. The performers at the Bankhead, many of those are staying in other cities at more upscale hotels outside of Livermore because there's not an appropriate place here. So this is absolutely the place to have it. And for weddings, for business, we need an upscale hotel with that iconic presence in the downtown. And this is one of the main issues, is when we went through the public outreach, that extensive public outreach, and we heard from thousands of people, we were also listening to what they wanted and the priorities of what they wanted. And this was the main thing, and this is what's getting lost, is everybody agreed that one of the primary learnings was that the hotel had to have an iconic presence on South Livermore Avenue. Everybody agreed to that. Then what happened is priority number one in the downtown was more parking. We got that. We're adding hundreds of more parking spaces. The second priority was preserving the downtown character. That was the number 2 priority. Number 3 was open space. We've already talked about that. But if the hotel went on the west side, you'd have this massive building looming over Blacksmith Square, and it would destroy the character of the downtown. It would be almost like a giant amoeba swallowing Blacksmith Square, and it would destroy the downtown character. Number 2 on the priorities of these thousands of people we heard from was protecting the downtown character. The location of the hotel was priority number 7. So by weighing the priorities, a lot of people said they wanted a West Side hotel, but that was the 7th priority. The number 2 priority was preserving the character of the downtown. We heard that, we understood that importance, and that's why the hotel, based on what we heard from the community at large, why that hotel had to be on the east side.
Got it. Livermore is no longer immune to the housing crisis of the Bay Area. And the current council and yourself have recognized this by placing 130 units of workforce housing in the downtown plan. Do you support workforce housing being developed in the downtown plan?
I want teachers to be able to live in Livermore. I want first responders to be able to live in Livermore. And this really is, I'm dating myself, but to call it a red herring, because the original leaders of the community group supported 420 housing units in the downtown. And now they're trying to whip up this frenzy in the community on people that don't want housing in the downtown. But they originally supported 420 units. What we've done is we've listened to the community. They wanted less housing in the downtown than what was originally proposed by the leadership of this so-called community group. We've reduced that and moved it off-site. So the housing that's going to be on the campus of the City Hall, those are going to be primarily for seniors and for veterans, including specifically homeless veterans, because that's another big issue that we're grappling with. But we want teachers, we want first responders, and we need to help them out if they're going to live in our community. I've heard people say that, and this is troubling to me, when I hear people tell me when I'm sitting at the dais and they're saying from the podium, we don't want those people in our community. We don't want people living in affordable housing in our community. Well, people making $80,000 a year, that's 80, $80,000 will qualify for affordable housing. Teachers are not making that, but I want teachers to be able to live here in this community because I think that makes them better teachers, and I think it's better for our children.
Got it. Parking, as you said earlier, is the most important issue identified by the citizens in the public outreach process. So, do you believe the plan has too many, too few, or just the right amount of parking spots?
That's the old Little Red Riding Hood premise, right? Well, so we currently have about 1,100 parking spaces in the downtown. And when we're all said and done and everything is finished, we're going to have about 1,700 to 1,800 parking spaces in the downtown. We are increasing the amount of ADA, the handicap parking. We're increasing that by a factor of 8. So we're gonna have 8 times the ADA parking that we currently do right around the Bankhead Theater. So absolutely, we're going to be increasing the parking because we got that. We understand it. The residential downtown will have its own dedicated parking. So those people will not be taking parking spaces in the downtown that would be available for public parking. So yes, I believe we've got a good mix. And the other thing is, as people become more and more independent, they're going to be taking more ride sharing. And people, I think it's going to become more convenient to take ride shares or things like Uber and Lyft into the downtown, or even Wheels. Because remember, we just restored our old train station, and that's going to be the new transit center, the new bus and train station.
Got it. Our next major issue is campaign finance. During the last citywide election, when individuals were limited to campaign donations of only $250 per candidate, political action committees spent upwards of $230,000, with most of that money spent by a single group on negative ads. How do you plan to win this election?
Well, it's very difficult because when you have multimillionaires wading in and spending their considerable resources, and you've got individuals like me and the current council members, it's very difficult because they can set up a political action committee. And when I first ran for the Zone 7 Water Board, or when I first ran for the City Council, I didn't have the resources to set up a political action committee. And I don't believe that someone should have to set up a political action committee to run for a local council office. It's nonpartisan, and the only reason that you do this is to benefit the community. We don't get benefits. We don't get medical or dental benefits. We get a very small stipend, a small income, and that's not why we're here. We're here to serve the community. I think that's very important. So to have to expend a lot of one's personal resources to serve this community, I find troubling. But the thing that was most troubling in the last election, you mentioned the almost $250,000, but as you found, as one researches that campaign finance, one learns that there were two individuals that 7 months after the election, they bailed out the campaign. They spent over $120,000, two individuals, to hire a high-powered San Francisco campaign consultant. And that's very troubling. So this is why the council opted to remove the $250 limit. Now, I don't imagine that anybody is going to be coming in and writing me checks for tens of thousands of dollars. That's yet to be seen if that happens in this coming election, because I believe that we will see other candidates, some challengers that may be tapping into resources like that. I think one needs to consider very carefully why people are doing that. What is in their interest.
How much do you think you need to raise, and how would you do that?
Well, I have a track record. I have served this community. I have heard from other people. They love the way I've operated here in Livermore. They love the way I lead the city, that I lead by example. So I'm getting a lot of contributions, a lot of support, $50 to $100 here and there. Some are a couple $100, and I absolutely appreciate that. Some are more than that. People that have been doing business here in Livermore have been supporting my campaign, and it's based on my track record because they understand that I have been good for the community, good for business. What's interesting is last time around, I was actually attacked by the Political Action Committee saying that I support Livermore business instead of the community at large. Well, I support everybody in this community, and when my businesses succeed, my community succeeds. People can work here, people can live here, and my community succeeds. And to try to say that I can only serve one or the other really is a misrepresentation.
So how much do you think you need to raise, though?
Well, it depends. I have heard that there are people prepared to spend $1 million, $1 million against me, which I find just stunning because I can't even imagine having those kind of resources. I have set a preliminary target that if somebody is going to spend $1 million to try to defeat me, then I'm hoping to raise $100,000. I am not even close to that right yet, but I am prepared to spend whatever resources I can because I believe that good governance is extremely important. And there is no one running for this office that has the experience, the skill set, the time, and the commitment. And those are four very important things other than me. And when I was first elected mayor, I retired because I understood that if I was going to do the job that was required of me, I needed to do this full time. And that's why I love it. This is what I do. I am the mayor of Livermore. I get to serve this community. I represent it on 25 different boards and commissions, and I couldn't do that unless I was committed to do that full time. And there's nobody else out there that has the time or the commitment to do that.
Got it. I know you touched on this already, but what are your thoughts on political action committees operating in Livermore?
It creates a non-level playing field. When somebody wants to step up and serve this community, they shouldn't have to build an organization to build this huge war machine to manipulate the community thinking. You get out there, you serve the community, they recognize that, and they vote for good governance. But it's like we had large money coming in from out of state on several campaigns locally in the last primary. And I find that very troubling because we are a local community, and it troubles me when somebody comes in and tries to buy an election. And that's what we've seen here. This is Citizens United right here in Livermore, and what we're about is good governance, and that's been my commitment from the very beginning, all the way back when I first started on the Zone 7 Water Board. It was about good governance and community interest.
Will you condemn efforts by PACs to run negative advertising against your opponents?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm about the truth. I mean, I'm about trying to get the truth out. And I've already heard that they're ginning up negative ads against me. I heard from one individual, he says, well, you've got to go negative. And he is part of the group that's running against me. And I find that very troubling because why can't you run a positive campaign? But I've seen locally, there was recently a campaign that said they were going to be positive for the Tri-Valley. They got crushed because they ran a positive campaign, and there was this wave of negativity where they crushed the candidate under this wave of negativity. And I don't want the campaign to go negative, but I know that it will.
Okay, what are some of your ideas for the city that we haven't already touched on?
Wow, I'm pretty much an open book. I mean, I've talked about some of the things that I think are very important. The asset management plan is going to be very important. The city has $2.5 billion in assets. One of the stats that just amazes me is we have 8,000 wheelchair ramps in our sidewalks. Those are worth $43 million. And we had to replace those because the state changed the standards on them. They didn't give us the money for that, but we have to come up with the money for $2.5 billion in assets over a lifespan. Some of these are between 10 and 30 years. So with a budget of $116 million, how do you start carving out enough to pay for $2.5 billion? So the asset management plan is going to be very important. Public safety continues to be my #1 priority. As far as, I just briefly touched on Livermore Plaza, but of course Livermore, as you know, is one of 6 cities in the world to have an element named after it. And we are working to create this wonderful open space in the downtown just north of Pete's Coffee at 116 Livermore Avenue, which is just serendipity. But we're starting to put those efforts into place, and that's going to be a remarkable gathering space because that's where everyone that comes to Livermore will recognize the connection between the laboratory, technology, Livermore, and the world. So those are some of the issues. And of course, seeing the downtown come to fruition, the additional parking, the hotel, the Emergency Operations Center. That's something that I'm very proud of, because that's something we've been working on for 30 years. This is going to be something that is going to enable our first responders to have the training and the tools that they need to keep this community safe.
For my last question, is there anything you would like to say directly to the citizens of Livermore before we go?
It has been a tremendous privilege to have served this community as the mayor for the last 7 years. This is going to be rolling up onto my 4th and final term, and there are some things that I still want to get done in this community. Livermore Plaza, completing the downtown. And I think one of the reasons, what I'm very proud of, is that there have been efforts and goals that this city has tried to accomplish for over 50 years. And it is because of the time and the commitment that I have been able to bring to the mayor's office that we've been able to get these things done. For 40 years, our beloved train depot was deteriorating in the downtown in private ownership. We were able to move that back to the railroad tracks with a federal government grant, restore it back to its original glory, and now it is once again going to be operated as a train station. We're building the Emergency Operations Center. We are finally, after 56 years, building Stockman's Park to recognize the contribution of the stockmen and the veterans that have served this nation. It's the time and the commitment. And I'm very proud of the things that we've been able to accomplish as a community, and I'm looking forward to finishing those goals over the next 2 years as your mayor, and I would ask for your vote. Thank you very much.